I've gone back and forth for years about whether to share this. Even now, typing it out, I feel the same thing I felt that night. A cold, specific dread that doesn't have a name. I'm keeping certain details vague on purpose. I don't want this traced back to my family. The only people I've ever told are the ones who were there, and even among us, we rarely speak of it. I was very young when this happened. Young enough that some people might say I imagined it, or that fear distorted my memory. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I know that the older I get, the sharper it becomes, not duller. Like a wound that never fully healed over. My family is Christian. Faith was the air we breathed growing up. I didn't understand theology at that age, but I understood God and I understood prayer. What happened that night didn't shake my faith. Confirmed it, because what I witnessed was something that faith alone could stop. It started in the most ordinary way possible. It was an evening like any other. Our family home had a living room and kitchen in one open space, the kind of layout where everyone existed together, where you could never really be alone. The old desktop computer sat near the TV, and my oldest sister Rachel was on it, watching one of those prank videos that were everywhere at the time. The kind where a calm video suddenly cuts to a screaming face. She called me over. I watched. I jumped. I laughed. I went back to playing. Nothing felt wrong yet. The air in the room was normal. The lights were steady. Our dog was asleep in the corner. Everything was exactly as it should be. Then Rachel called our other sister, Lisa, without warning her. I wasn't watching directly. I was on the floor nearby, playing, half paying attention. But I remember the exact quality of the silence that came before it. A half-second pause that felt oddly stretched, like the moment before a storm breaks. And then Lisa screamed. Not a startled scream. Not the kind you laugh off. This was something I had never heard come from a human being. Raw, piercing, and almost immediately wrong in a way I couldn't articulate. Like the sound a person makes when something enters them rather than something merely frightens them. I turned around. Lisa was shaking. Her whole body. Uncontrollable, total. Like something was moving through her from the inside. My mom was across the room in less than a second. I had never seen her move that fast, and she grabbed Lisa and held her. My dad was on his feet, voice raised, asking what she'd been shown. His eyes going between the computer screen and his daughter like he was trying to understand something that didn't make sense. Then Lisa went limp. Not relaxed. Limp. Arms dropping to her sides like the strings had been cut. Head falling. The shaking just stopped. And what replaced it was somehow worse. Complete stillness. I remember my mom's face. I have tried, over the years, to find another word for what I saw in it. I keep coming back to the same one, terror. Not fear, terror. The specific look of a person who recognizes something they hoped they would never see. She called our pastor. It was late. She didn't apologize for the hour. While my dad got the car ready, my mom sent me into a bedroom with Lisa. Just the two of us. I sat beside her on the bed. I held her hand. I want to be careful here because this is the detail that took me the longest to understand. At the time, I was too young and too scared to name what I was feeling. I just knew something was wrong with how she felt. Her hand in mine was cold. Not cold like she'd been outside. Not cold like bad circulation. Cold in a way that seemed to come from somewhere deeper than skin. Years later, I attended my first funeral. I stood beside the casket. I reached out, and I recognized it immediately. That was the moment I finally understood what I had felt that night. Holding my sister's hand on that bed, telling her everything was going to be okay. She felt like someone who had already left. I was still holding her hand when she turned her head. Fast. Too fast. The kind of movement that the neck doesn't make naturally. A snap, a pivot, mechanical and sudden. And she looked directly at me. Her eyes were black. Not dark brown. Not dilated. Black. Completely, fully, from edge to edge. Like two holes where her eyes used to be. And I felt something that I can only describe as the most primal response a human body is capable of. The absolute cellular certainty that what was looking at me was not my sister. And yet somehow still was. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just sat there, frozen, holding the hand of something that wore my sister's face and looked at me with eyes like open graves. My dad appeared in the doorway a moment later and we went to the car. The church was quiet when we arrived. The kind of quiet that feels thick. A teenager, one of the youth helpers, tried to approach Lisa gently. He touched her hands. She looked at him. He stepped back immediately, didn't say anything, just turned and went to get the pastor. We were brought into the main hall. My parents told me everything was fine. I was old enough to know that was a lie told out of love, and I loved them for it. I sat behind my dad while the pastor and several others gathered around Lisa and began to pray. Real prayer, not quiet, not gentle. The kind with authority in it. They were not asking. They were commanding. The lights in the hall felt dimmer than they should have been. Or maybe I only remember it that way. What I know for certain is that the air felt different, heavier, pressurized, like the atmosphere before lightning strikes. I remember my own breathing felt loud to me. I remember the shadows at the edges of the room seeming to lean inward. And then Lisa screamed again. Except it wasn't Lisa. The voice that came out of her was low, distorted, layered, almost like two voices pressed together into one sound. Deep in a way that a teenage girl's voice simply cannot be. It kept saying it hurts over and over, and the wrongness of the sound was so complete that my body responded before my mind did. Every hair standing, lungs locked, unable to move. My dad picked me up, turned my face away, said don't look. I looked anyway. I saw my sister on the floor, twitching, moving in ways that joints and muscles don't allow, crawling in a shape that didn't make sense for a human body. And I buried my face in my father's shoulder and held on with everything I had. And I prayed the only way a terrified child knows how, without words, without structure, just please, please, please. And then it was over. I don't remember the exact moment. 1 minute the room was chaos. And then it wasn't. Lisa was exhausted, pale, herself again. But barely. She could hardly sit up. Nobody spoke on the drive home. We never spoke about it again after that night. Years later, when we were both adults, I finally asked her. She told me that when she watched the video, she felt something enter her body, physically, like a presence forcing itself in. Everything went dark and she found herself watching from outside. She could see herself and she could see it simultaneously. Two things in one body. She told me that when she turned her head and looked at me on that bed. She was scared. Not of me. For me. She was terrified that whatever had taken her was going to reach out through her and take me too. When the prayers ended, she said she snapped back into herself like a rubber band. Sudden, total, and leaving her utterly hollow. Exhausted in a way that sleep couldn't fix for days. She doesn't talk about it. When I've brought it up, she says only that it was the worst experience of her life and changes the subject. I still can't explain what I saw that night in any language that fully captures it. I've tried rational frameworks and they don't hold. I've tried spiritual ones and they come closer, but even they feel insufficient for something that lived in the same room as me and looked out through my sister's eyes. What I know is this evil is real. It is not metaphorical. It does not require your belief to exist. And some things are better left in the dark. But some things have already seen your face.